Hello, my name is Mandolin, and I am the Director of Lifespan Religious Education at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fredericksburg. And I am pleased today to be sharing a story with you from a Unitarian Universalist storybook called A Lamp in Every Corner. This story is called Those Awful Unitarians, the Baltimore Sermon. And this story happened way back in 1819. Nearly 200 years ago, when tall-masted ships sailed on the oceans and horses clip-clopped on cobblestone streets, two young ladies named Amelia and Emily were walking in the city of Baltimore. It was a warm spring day, and Amelia and Emily twirled their parasols on their shoulders and lifted the hems of their long skirts to step over the puddles of rain. "Good day to you, ladies," called a gentleman, and he tipped his hat to them and smiled. Amelia smiled back and said, "Good day." But when the gentleman had gone by, Emily clutched at her friend's arm and said, "Amelia, don't you know who that is?" "No, that's Mr. Jared Sparks. He's going to be the minister of that new church with the big dome on Franklin Street." Amelia gasped. "Dome? Yes, Mr. Sparks." And Emily looked around and then lowered her voice before she said, "Is a Unitarian." "Oh, dear." Amelia turned to look at the gentleman who was just disappearing around a corner, and he seemed like such a pleasant man. Emily sniffed. "Father says those Unitarians are all non-believers." Angela said, "But I heard that Mr. Sparks is going to be ordained on Wednesday." Emily sniffed again. "They may call it ordained, but Father says he would never call a Unitarian minister reverend, because they're not proper Christians. They don't even believe that Jesus was the Son of God." "Oh my goodness," Amelia said. "Mama said one of their ministers, a Mr. William Ellery Channing, will be coming all the way down from Boston to give a sermon, and a great many other of their ministers will be in Baltimore too." This time Emily giggled. "No one will hear Mr. Channing's sermon unless they're sitting in the very first pew. People say that in the grand new church those Unitarians built, it's simply impossible to hear," which is a very good thing. "Yes, it is," Amelia agreed. "That sort of Unitarian nonsense shouldn't be spread around." And with that declaration, the two young ladies continued on their walk, stepping over puddles and twirling their parasols on their way. William Ellery Channing did come to Baltimore, all the way down from Boston. Dozens of other Unitarian ministers came too. They held a special ordination ceremony for Mr. Jared Sparks, and he became the Reverend Jared Sparks, the official minister of the church. And the Reverend Channing, because Unitarians did call their ministers reverend, did preach a sermon that day. It's true that in that new church with the big dome, not very many people could hear the sermon, but over 10,000 people read it because it was printed and sold all around the United States. Now, back then, as Amelia and Emily knew, Unitarian wasn't considered a polite word. People preferred to be called liberal Christians in a Congregationalist church. But the title of William Ellery Channing's sermon on that day in 1819 was Unitarian Christianity. "It is our name," he said. "We must not shrink from it." 2 years after Mr. Channing's sermon in Baltimore, over 100 Congregationalist churches had declared themselves to be Unitarian. 6 years after the sermon, a group of ministers created the American Unitarian Association. They were proud of that name, and so are we. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening.